Welcome to the session on reading. I've titled it Read, Read, and Read, and that is what this particular presentation is all about. More than a technical session on reading, I wish that after watching this presentation and after listening to me, you would grab a book and start reading. And that is why I've titled it Read, Read, and Read, because that is what it is all about. Now, before I move into the session, I would like to bring before you certain people who have read all their life. The reason why I've copied their pictures and I've actually trying to rekindle your memory is because many of these people, and I mean almost all of them, I would say all of them, are the busy people of the world. It is often an excuse which we coin when somebody asks us to read. We say we are busy, we are doing that, we are doing this, we are engaged otherwise, and so we don't find time to read, etc. But if you look at the lives of these people who have come up in life in their own manner, you would definitely understand that they had spent lots and lots of time reading. And this man on the screen is somebody who's familiar to all of you. He's none other than Abraham Lincoln. I don't want to go into his biography because you know what and who he was. Now, there is just one instance which you can read from his life narratives, and that is that he was an avid reader. And as a young boy, he used to walk miles together so as to borrow a book. Because he came from a poor background, he could not own the book, but just to borrow a book and go through the book, he used to walk miles together. And you know where he came in life. Now, the next I want you to know, and somebody who you all know is definitely Warren Buffett, and he's the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway. He's supposed to be the fourth richest man in the world. But just look at what he said. He famously said that the key to success was reading 500 pages of material every day. That's how knowledge works. It builds up like compound interest. He said, all of you can do it, but I guarantee not many of you will do it. So that is actually a sentence which I guess should be underlined. He guarantees that not many of us would do it. So so do you think you can spend hours reading 500 pages a day? But that is the key to success. And that is why he says he became the fourth richest man in the world. And I'm not saying that reading is the first step to getting rich. You can become rich in several ways. Okay. But what I want to underline is that if you want to hold a noble soul, if you want to become rich in your temperament, in your ideas, definitely get a book. There are people who have come up in life without reading even a single title. Of course, I know that. But you should always remember that those people who have come up without reading got a large fund of what you call life experiences. Sorry to say, neither you nor I have got that fund of experiences. Right now we are all people under the age of 35. So I should say in our generation we have not got such a large fund of experiences so that we can survive or we can come up or we can grow without reading a book. I'm so sorry to say. And the only way in which you can open your mind wide to the world outside, the only way in which you can rekindle your curiosity, I would say, is to read. And that is what exactly he says, Buffet says. Now, this man, I'm sure that many of you are familiar with his face, and he is none other than the CEO of Amazon. He's Jeff Bezos. He built his empire on his passion, reading, according to records. And he is actually somebody who loves The Remains of the Day by Shigeru and The Mythical Man Month by Frederick P. Brooks Jr. And that is exactly, and he says these two books helped him, kind of form his business style, the style in which he formed his, Amazon empire. So take these people. They might be considered quite successful, wealthy, and of course they are quite busy too, but they do find time for reading, and that is what we should take home. She is someone who's quite uh, famous, somebody who doesn't even need a tagline. She's Oprah Winfrey. And she says that all her talk shows, and whenever she goes up on stage, whenever she becomes a host, she always made it a point, or she always makes it a point, to read, to gather as much information as possible, because that is the best way to communicate, that is the best way to connect with the audience. Bill Gates, like many other great business people, Bill Gates is an avid reader, passionate book lover. I just read it. On his blog earlier this month here refers to 2017, okay? I took it from buzzle.com. I've definitely taglined it underneath. On his blog earlier this month, the second wealthiest person alive shared his belief that books are the best way to explore new topics that interest you. And his top 2017 reads: The Best We Could Do, Evicted, Poverty and Profit in the American City, Believe Me, A Memo of Life and Death, and Jazz Chickens, The Sympathizer, Energy and Civilization. Good readers, they read in an interdisciplinary fashion. They don't stick to their own disciplines, but they go outside and beyond their disciplines. For instance, if you're a literature student, then I definitely encourage you to read something about management. If you're a management student, I'll definitely encourage you to read something on poetry, because that is the best way in which you can read life. You can read about. Now, this is another interesting fact which I would like to bring into your attention. According to a survey which was conducted in 2005, that is more than, almost 15 years ago, uh, Indians are considered to be the world's best readers. Okay, and that was quite surprising, because, and then when I went through the article, I found that they read a lot on mathematics, they read a lot on self-help books, etc. Now, another interesting article was on the 11 kinds of Indian readers, and that is something which, I've given the link here so that you can click on it, and if you really want to read the article, you can click on it and read. And wherein very humorously you would find 11 kinds of Indian readers, right from those Indian readers who really want to, stack their bookshelves with all kinds of books available, take a photo standing in front of it, and declare to the world that they possess the largest number of books in the world without even reading a single title within brackets, to those readers who sort of start eating the book the moment they get it in their hands, to those people who just look at the introduction and the conclusion and just assume whatever that is in the middle. So there are an interesting assortment of 11 kinds of Indian readers altogether in the article, and I guess that is something which you don't want to miss out if you would like to know those kinds of Indian readers. And I'm also sure that you will be able to add on, and the list can become 21 even. Now, this is an interesting book because I come from a literature background. I just want to quote this example. If on a Winter's Night, a Traveler by Italo Calvino is considered to be one of the best postmodern texts. It came in 1979. And it is a novel which actually talks about different novels. Chapter to chapter, you actually move along with the protagonist, who is actually a great reader in search of the next part of the novel that he holds in his hand. And what happens each time is that the next part of the novel keeps deferred or postponed. It is deferred and deferred, just like Derrida's deference. So for example, he reads through maybe a part of novel one, and he goes in search of novel one, and then somebody says this is this is actually something which is the case of the publishing industry, so we are sorry, and this is the the next part of this particular novel, and it has been written by another person under another title. So he gets this novel, that is being offered, and only when he starts reading he understands that this particular novel, that is novel 2, has no connection with novel 1. But since he finds a story to be interesting, he continues reading novel 2. So we as readers of Italo Calvino's If on a Winter's Night, we also read that novel. So in the end, what happens is that you would have read not just one novel titled If on a Winter's Night, A Traveler by Italo Calvino, but you read almost 10 or 11 stories, which is the real story of, if you want to call the real story of Italo Calvino's If on a Winter's Night, A Traveler. So basically it is a novel about novel. And inside, and what I wanted to underline is that it's actually a very good novel if you're interested in postmodern fiction on reading and on writing. And Italo Calvino talks about the different kinds of books, just like the 11 kinds of ancient readers. These are the different kinds of books that he talks about. Now, I found it amusing, so I thought I'll just share it with you. Those are books you haven't read, of course. We have not, and that is the top list, I would say. Then books you need not read. Many a time, after reading a book, you feel that you should not have read it at all. And then you assume that certain books that should not, I need not read that book because that book is about physics. I'm not a physics student, so why should I read the book? So books you need not read, such kind of an attitude. Books made for other purposes than reading, maybe killing a mosquito or, hitting someone else. If you had more time, you would certainly read kind of books. Books which are too expensive to read, I would say. I had to wait almost a year when I was a student before I could get 2,500 rupees so as to buy a theory book. Of course, my parents would have funded me, but I really wanted to wait for such a long time because I just passed out and I just started working and I really didn't want to spend so much on a book. But finally, I bought the book and it cost me around 2,500. Books that everybody read, so it is as if you have read them too. So, for example, certain self-help books everybody is talking about, and you feel that everybody is talking about it, so you know the summary, and you feel that books you have been planning to read for ages, but you never have started. Books you have been hunting for ages without success, very rare. Books you want to own so that they'll be handy just in case. Books you need to go with other books on your shelves, just to people the shelf. Books that fill you with sudden, inexplicable curiosity. The start of the novel is so capturing that you really want to know what the end of the novel is. I had this bad habit of reading a book from, at the end, especially storybooks and novels, because I get so much carried away with curiosity that I want to know what happens in the end. But gradually I got over it. Now, another kind of books, books you can keep aside maybe to read this summer, and that summer never comes. Yeah, for example, you can quote your textbooks maybe. Books that you never ever read, even when the exam is just a day ahead. So these are interesting. I just wanted to kind of outline the different interesting observations on books by different people, by different journalists, etc. Now, the pertinent question: what is reading? I re- and I know that each of us have got our own versions of what reading is. So basically, I just want to borrow this particular definition that it is a skill which helps in grasping the content, acquire vocabulary, understand the sentence structure, and find the relationship between the ideas. So basically, it's all about knowing what is written down. So reading, listening, speaking, and writing are 4 skills which you can associate with language learning. Reading is very important because it can be considered as one of the primary steps or skills to other skills when you deal with language. And it is the best way to acquire vocabulary, I would say. It's the best way to learn new words, to get yourself entangled in the nuances of language, the particular language that you are reading. And it also helps you to understand the sentence structure. Maybe that can be called the grammar part. You learn where the subject comes, where the object should be, where the verb should be placed, etc., and how it differs from one language to another language. And basically, the primary aim of reading is to find out the key idea and the relationship between the ideas in a text. Now, just like any other skill, reading is a skill which you can acquire only with practice. If you want to become a habitual reader, you should definitely practice reading. Now, I'm sure that many of you have watched Twyla Tharp's videos. She's 79 years old, and she has won 2 Grammys. She's a master in dance. She's a choreographer. She has also many of her choreographies have. She also choreographed for films, and basically she's a performer, and she's a great woman. She's a great person, I would say. Now, Twyla Tharp has authored a book which is called The Creative Habit, and that was a pretty good book which helped me to relearn many of the things which I had thought I had learned well enough. In that book, she kind of talks about how certain rituals are necessary to form a habit. So I'm talking about the habit of reading, how to form the habit of reading, which is why I'm quoting Twyla Tharp. And she says, as a dancer, that is something which she does every day. She gets up at 5:30 a.m. in the morning. She grabs her coat and her hat and she walks out of her apartment, and she hails a taxi, and she gives the address of the gym where she regularly goes to work out for 2 hours every day in the morning from 5:30 onwards. And what I want to highlight is not this. What I want to highlight is that Twyla Tharp says, till I get into the taxi and give the address to the taxi driver, I self-consciously am enrolled in a routine. Please don't think that Twyla Tharp does not want to sleep 2 hours more. There are days when I really don't want to get up at all. But I force myself to do it because I know that if I have to work today, if I want to have my mind clear, if I want to be physically fit, if I really want to, give people the best of what I am to thank myself, then I have to do this ritual. It is a kind of a prayer, getting up, grabbing the hat and the jacket, walking out and getting into the taxi is a ritual that I perform every day as if I'm doing a prayer. And she talks about how good readers and writers, they stick on to a particular space, a good environment which they choose every day for writing and reading. Now, this can be applied if you want to become a habitual reader. Choose a place of your choice and fix a time and make it a point that you stick on to this time every day when you read. Let it be 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 45 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours. It's up to you. But make it a point that you sit in that particular spot and you read. Okay, so if you want to become a habitual reader, then start practicing, because reading is basically a skill and it can be acquired just like dance or music or arts or whatever skills there are in the world. It can be acquired only by practice. Now, there are there are 3 phases in reading, or what you can call the process in reading, but it is interconnected, which is why I've actually put it in a triangular form because it works differently for different people. You have the simple part, which is the object. For example, when I'm talking about a bottle, I have that object in my mind. Sound, B-O-T-T-L-E, is the sound part of bottle when I read bottle. Sense, of course, the meaning of the word bottle, and all these 3 are interconnected: the simple and the sound and the sense. Maybe sometimes the simple and the sound together gives a sense. Sometimes you know the sound but you don't know the simple, and then you have to refer the dictionary for the sense. Anyway, the process in reading involves the simple, the sound and the sense. I don't want to go into the linguistic nuances which were put forward by Saussure and then later criticized by Derrida, etc. But basically, these 3 elements are very much important in reading. Now, reading skills involve a lot of things. I've just taken the best which I could find on the net, of course. Just use background knowledge. Because when you read, you are not reading simply the lines and sentences in the text alone, but you have to infer ideas, and that is again another part of reading skills which you can find in the second column. If you want to infer, then definitely you need to have some kind of a background knowledge. Asking questions is very important. When you read, ask the question like why, what, how, etc. to the text. Identify the author's purpose. You will be able to identify the purpose from the introduction and the conclusion mainly. Identify the main idea. That is very important. And you should identify the core argument of the essay or of a story. You should be able to predict what is going to come next or what might come next. You should be able to predict the audience's, the reader's responses to. You should be able to summarize the key arguments. And if for summarizing it, you should recognize the sequence of the ideas, and also you should recognize the sequence of the words. You must be able to recognize what causes leads to which effects. You should be able to form connections between the ideas. You must be able to visualize what is being written. For example, if it is a story, then you should be able to visualize, that particular action. You can reread for clarities, because rereading is very important, especially when you do comprehension questions. Please try to reread, because it's only when you read 2 or 3 times that ideas become clear and you will be able to bring the correct answer to the question. You should be able to adjust your pacing, the reading pace. If you're a trained reader, you can read more in 1 hour. But if you're just starting, it will take time. But with practice, you can adjust your reading pace. Now, these are the different types of reading. I'm sure that almost all of us use the four. And basically, there are two kinds of reading. One is reading aloud. The second one is silent reading. Now, reading aloud stops, I guess, when we come of a particular age, because reading itself has got certain stigma associated with it, which we have to counter if you really want to become a good reader. Because people always consider those who read to be, bookworms, and they get all kinds of, negative, stereotypical titles. But I guess we have to overcome that. Anyway, basically, as adults, we do silent reading. And we do all this extensive reading, which is wide reading to gather information, intensive reading, which you can call reading for comprehension or the critical kind of reading. Then you do skimming and scanning. Skimming is when you read through a piece of writing very quickly to see what it is all about. Skimming a newspaper, for example. Scanning, when you look out for a particular information to find a particular answer to a particular question, that is called scanning. So we do all this in one way or the other when we read as adults. Now, there are different factors which affect reading. Physical factors, of course, reading and reading can definitely affect our eyes, our posture. Sitting and reading for a long time in the wrong posture can definitely cause you health problems. Nerves and brains are, of course, really made fine by reading, because your brain is getting active. Emotional factors, of course, there are some people, especially youngsters, who have some kind of an anxiety towards reading, because there is this peer pressure to engage in other activities, preferences like watching a movie or listening to music over sitting down somewhere, sitting still and reading. Emotional. Now, these are the other factors which might affect your reading, like family, gender, your background, environment, your confidence level, self-esteem, encouragement received, age. These are all other factors which would definitely affect your reading. How can you improve your reading skills? It's only by starting to read. Choose your area of interest and then move to critical areas of interest, which one of my friends says, criticism on criticism. For example, if you're interested in mountaineering, you start reading about mountaineering, then you move to techniques on mountaineering, then you really move into criticism on mountaineering. How people who prefer to stay in the plain, for example, those people who walk on the plains, those walking projects on plain ground rather than the CCTV surveillance from above. So that is how you can program your reading. Then initially, you can depend on audiobooks right now because it will help you to instill and augment your interest. For example, this is Dirt to Soil, an audiobook by Gabe Brown on organic farming. So if you're interested in farming, listen to Gabe Brown initially, and then you can start reading, not listening, reading from books on organic farming, and then you move to other areas of interest. So the best way to get started is to start reading about your area of interest. Now, another way is to learn vocabulary, and this can be done either on the go. When you read an article, you find a couple of words which you don't know the meaning, and then you stop, you check the meaning and go, or you assume from the sentences the meaning, or you can learn 4 or 5 or even 10 words a day. Listen to good English, or listen to the language which you want to read in. Listening is very important, and you should subscribe to good journals of research interest, because reading your interest, your area of interest from other journals will definitely help you in the next level, which is writing. Keep a notepad with you or start an art journal, and that is a good idea. If you have a creative mind, start an art journal for the books that you read. You write the title of the book on one side, and after reading the book, you try to sketch it on the other side, or even a couple of pages. Develop a reading list, and that will definitely kind of give you a push to read further. At the end of a month, if you take the list and see that you have read 5 or 6 books, wow, that's great. Again, make it 50 by the end of this year. So such kind of an attitude, and of course it'll also help you to suggest to other people good books to read. Reading club is definitely good, and I just want to talk about Reading Room Trivandrum, just a few lines. They are situated at Kavdiar, and I chanced to come across YouTube channel wherein they are holding discussions because it's Corona times. But before Corona times, from 2015 onwards, Reading Room Trivandrum had been hosting events like the ones which you see here for school children to augment their interest in stories by narrating stories and all. They have also done sessions on poetry, on journalism, on music, where they invite people of all backgrounds. They have also done book readings by authors. So starting a reading club in your college or in your locality is one of the best ways to start reading. It will help you and it will help others too. So this is a link to Reading Room Trivandrum YouTube channel. If you really want to get a quick peek at their activities, please click on it and watch. This is actually, these are actually random videos which I did on reading, and if you really would like to watch it again, please do click on the links. So thank you so much for this session. I sincerely hope that you would all grab a book and start reading. Thank you so much.